All right, tonight's the night. We have to talk about the Vinegar Syndrome release of the famous 1986 movie Spookies. Let's do it. All right, tonight is indeed the night to talk about this Vinegar Syndrome release of the infamous 1986 movie Spookies. This really is something to see. So we'll talk about it for a second, and then few minutes, and then we'll see if we can fix it at the end. We'll see if we can come up with some ideas how we could fix it, and possibly a sequel. Would you like to see a sequel to this? Let me just read this because this would be the best way to describe this. Produced by Michael Lee, founder of the adorned UK home video distribution company Vipco. Okay. The film became a fan favorite thanks to the expertly rendered creature effects and notorious for its bizarre production history, in which the original creators, co writers, and directors Brandon Faulkner and Thomas Duran and co writer producer Frank Ferret were fired and replaced by Eugenie Joseph, who added new scenes and re edited the previously shot footage. So there you have it. You had one set of directors and special effects guys and art guys and visual effects guys that had an idea in this mansion to come up with this movie and story, massively surrounded by the creatures, which is worth the purchase of this movie, uh, just in the creatures. But the bizarre part about it comes in right when they brought in Jeannie, Eugenie Joseph, uh, who took their footage and then shot new footage. And basically, one of the instructions in the original idea was Michael Lee wanted no nudity. Uh, uh, he wanted no zombies, I believe, in the film. And so then when Eugenie Joseph came in, they kind of nixed that whole idea, and then they added the kitchen sink with zombies. And yeah, they didn't add nudity, but they just took out footage and replaced it with different footage. So in essentially, you have two films squashed into one idea, which uh, does it work? I don't know. You got to check it out to see. I mean, it works on some levels for me, but basically, you're thinking the whole time about that whole thing. You're trying to pick out, all right, this is their footage, this is their footage, but it becomes pretty obvious. But it's interesting none the same. The reason that I still think it's worth seeing this movie for just the intrigue of that, the two ideas being like stepped on each other, but unfortunately, the casualty of this is all the wonderful special effects, art department, and visual effects stuff that they did do gets kind of overshadowed by the train wreck of the story. But so in the original story, uh, they had a mansion, they had a haunted mansion that they were going to shoot in, and I think the original shot was of a homeless person comes in and then gets spooked and blah. Then the movie continues, and then all the two carloads of kids pull up, and then they're having a party and find a Ouija board and then encounter all these spookies, all these monsters and the Grim Reaper and Spider Girl and other things, which are great. A monster that looks like ghoulies. They're all those things are great, but the original idea got kind of squashed up. But there are such cool things. That's what stinks. Is like they're the movie opens and ends on the pulsating, um, grave tomb casket. Just great. Spider Girl's a big um, bonus in this. Great visual effects. But so what happened was that opening scene with the homeless guy that comes in. Now they've replaced it when they came in with the new crew. With now it's a kid that comes in to some surprise birthday party, and he's 13. It just doesn't make sense at all. But then the more I think about it, I kind of can make some sense out of it. Like, was he summoned by this now um, vampire that was kind of pulling the strings of the whole thing that they've added in there? And then he gets killed by a wolf character, and then he comes back as a zombie himself. And I kind of wonder if their idea was there to summon that boy, because other than that, and then there's a bride narrative they added, and it just gets crazy. But so if they did summon him, then I can make some sense sort of out of that, which might be. But at first glance, it's just this 13-year-old boy wandering through a forest and stumbles upon a haunted mansion where they're having a birthday party for him, and it just doesn't make sense. And then that gets uh, abandoned, and then it's the kids, and then it's the other footage. So, uh, so yeah, look, I'm only like a couple minutes into the film, a few minutes into the film. I'm already exhausted here explaining it to you, but so it goes on and on. Let me point out some of the highlights from obviously the original shot footage. Um, the At one point they go in a basement. The basement's unfinished, doesn't have a finished floor. It's just dirt. Then they're down there, and these muck monster creatures come up from the dirt floor. Fantastic. They look great. They have a fight scene. Blah blah. They're killed by wine. It's a wine cellar. I know, it's just, hear me. I mean, this is a real movie, folks. So, but then when the new production company came in, the Muck Monsters, they added fart noises. So now it's like this intimidating music, intimidating creatures that they did a great job making these special effects. And then the new company just adds fart noises, which, like, the Muck Monsters are just farting. And apparently they liked it in Italy like that, but it really does kill the scene. Obviously, for those wondering, it does kill the scene, which could have ultimately been a cool scene, but now it's infamous for the fart monsters. So it's wild. So now we're like halfway through the movie. I'll bring up another really awesome part of the original shot footage by Tom Duran is the spider lady. And again, I've complimented the creatures, the creature design, the set design. The guy that did the set design for the Spider Woman scene, had a room like this size or whatever to make a spider lair, and he did it all himself. All the you know all the effects, all the visuals, and it just looked perfect. The actress that played the Spider Woman uh, just was perfect performance. It almost looked like it was a different movie, and it could have been, if they had that shot and that footage could have been its own movie, standalone movie. If you're listening out there, I mean, something to think about. Looked fantastic. The guy that did the set design, the actress that did it, she had a transformation into a spider. It was phenomenal, and I'll tell you how they did that real quick. And the actor got caught in the spider web, and so that footage, when they instead of showing the constant transformation, though, they show the actress, then they pan away to the guy in the caught in the spider web, and that's the way to show the transformation without. So then when they shoot back to her, she's forming more into a spider, and I'm fine with them going back and forth like that. I kind of liked it. It was cool. Boom, boom, like 4 back and forth shots, and ultimately she's the spider creature. But when they panned over to the guy in a cobweb, it really, because that stuff looked so great with the Spider Woman. That whole scene was so cool. They shot back here; it was like home movie almost looking, and the sound was bad. And then they panned back up, so that was the only thing bad about that. But then when they finally did, she was in full transformation into the spider, and then he panned back over to him, and then she shot some venom into him, and it sucked him, and he like evaporated. That great effects. So great. But the back and forth was cool. Like I said, it was just that her particular costume and makeup and the actress and the scene were so phenomenal that could have been a standalone movie all by itself, or just put as much. I feel like they probably chopped a lot of that out of there. There should have been just as much of that as possible because it looked like, in my opinion, just a whole different movie with the set and the actress and the transformation. It was just phenomenal. So after that, I can't say enough about that. That was really great. But after that, then they go back in and they go back with the story of the bride and the master and all that. And you just kind of get bored with that because the audio is terrible uh, of the recording of the guy, the vampire that's supposed to be like controlling all this. The audio is so terrible. Um, and that's on them as they recorded it. If you're playing video games with your volume, to turn it up to hear them. And so you miss a lot of that, but it gets kind of boring. But then they're ultimately they're being chased by zombies and blah, 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 the end. Or this girl's being chased by zombies, the bride. So, um, and that's that. There's a Grim Reaper scene that's pretty cool, except he comes out and he's chasing and he gets overpowered real quick by one of the characters and then he explodes it. I mean, there are such great qualities to this movie. But again, when they brought in the second production company, it just got haywire. But all right, so how could we fix the movie? Probably um, sticking with the opening scene with the vagrant, because that makes sense. The vagrant would definitely stumble into a mansion and then continue and do as much less acting, cut out a lot of the acting. There was a Ouija board scene which the girl transferred into a monster, which was great. But uh, the acting obviously was not you know amazing, right? So uh, I would say one way to fix it was less acting and more monsters. But this really, they could do a sequel to this, um, and concentrate on the monsters. Um, I think it would be awesome. Maybe have a bigger budget. Obviously, they didn't have a giant budget on this, but I'd stick with the vagrant coming in. That would have been great footage rather than a little boy birthday party thing. And then and then try to capture all the sets to look like that Spider Woman scene, because that just looked phenomenal. So if you that's the way to fix it. Start with the vagrant, try to emulate the Spider Woman set design all throughout the movie, less dialogue and more monsters. So they could probably do a part two of this, but um, hopefully that made sense to anybody watching. That's Spookies. That's it. And if you think that I was all over the place, you should see Spookies. It's all over the place, but it's wonderful. If you're a collector, you probably own this or you've seen it. Uh, I think this should be in everybody's collection if you like horror movies, history, um, history of IPCO. And I didn't even touch upon the two documentaries that are in here that explain a lot of what I just said. Those are phenomenal. This is well worth it. I think you should have it. And if you're not a collector, if you just like horror films or you're curious, um, maybe seek this out to watch it somewhere and see if it's something you'd like to own. But if you're at all curious after watching this, believe me, the combination of the movie Spookies and the couple documentaries and the rabbit hole that you'll get sent down uh, about Vipco, which in 2022 was acquired by a company called Bayview Entertainment. So look at that; they're putting um, a lot of films and stuff out now. So that's a rabbit hole to go down. All right, there you have it. Spookies. All right, if you like this content, first, if you've been here before, welcome back. If you like this content and you're new here, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button. I have added 99-cent memberships, where we will do behind the scenes stuff of stuff like full moon features. When I went to Church of Chills, Charles Band stuff, I'll put some of that up there. Stuff with Little Nell, Night of the Living Dead, stuff in Evans City, and other things as we get them, because there's things planned. There's another Church of Chills coming up, and I'll put a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for members. So consider subscribing and becoming a member by if you want to, or don't. But either way, I appreciate you watching, and we will definitely see you next time on Severely Cinematic.